What am I going to do? And so I called my attorney. That was my first call. We'll have a meeting at the bank. And I'm like, sure. So
when the doubt gets loud, but answer that call. Vision ain't real till you grind that speed, so breathing deep. Then call the damn leads. Call the damn leads.
Hey, welcome back to Call the Damn Leads, the show by sales professionals for sales professionals. I'm your host, Drewbie Wilson. With more than 2 decades in sales, I've seen it, been through it, heard about it. Now I'm bringing those stories to you, my favorite people in the world, the sales community. Because let's be honest, this is the greatest job on earth. It doesn't matter where you come from, what background, what personality type. You can make a pretty amazing life in sales. Today's guest, definitely no stranger to that journey. I'd like to welcome my friend, Mr. Scott McElroy. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Drewbie. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you being here. I know you're a busy man, so I want to jump right in. I want to hear your crazy story.
Yeah, as you were kind of telling me, pick a story, and I'm like, well, there was that one time that I was sitting there trying to close on my car wash, this dream that had come up out of the ground, and the SBA and the bank was sitting there telling me, you've committed fraud with the PPP loans back in 2020, 21. We all remember that. And I sat there and I was like, no, I did not. And so that started a 3-day journey where I've got a car wash that is built. I've got a brand that's all over it. I've got employees that are working. I've got systems and processes and procedures all put into place. I've got customers and members because we opened the car wash before we closed because the builder let me do that. And like everything was enmeshed together, which is the one thing that they tell you never to do until you actually close. But here we are. And the bank calls me and says, hey, there's a problem with your source funds that you put into the business a year prior. And I was like, well, okay, what do we do? They're like, this is no longer a viable deal for the bank. And my heart, your heart just kind of drops and you are sitting there like looking at everything that's gone on and you're just like, what am I going to do? And so I called my attorney. That was my first call. And my second call was to the partner that I had pulled in for the deal. And he's been in business for 40 years. So he had a lot of experience. And he goes, let's go have a meeting at the bank. And I'm like, sure. So that meeting came and and I knew for a fact, like I knew my facts, right? I knew there was no fraud created. I had all the receipts. I had everything that was PPP loan requirements. I had done every single part of that. And I knew that I was good, but the bank was convinced that I wasn't. And so we go into that meeting. We're talking. I've got the president of the bank and I've got the chief lending officer and then my lending officer in the bank. And my partner leans across the desk and he's basically saying, this is a PR nightmare for you if you don't figure this out for us. And so they kind of talked back and forth. I'm sweating bullets, right? Because this is my dream. This is my 10-year dream of a car wash coming up out of the ground, and it's finally there. And I'm literally at the signing table to make it mine. And they are like, it's literally almost ripped out of my hands. And so I'm quiet in that entire meeting, just explaining the facts, like putting facts, really trying not to have the emotional part of it inside of that conversation. And there was a couple of different things that the chief lending officer and the president said that started to just kind of alleviate my stress. And one of those things was they said, well, because the deal was the PPP loans And the parameters around that didn't require it to be in segregated accounts. It could just get thrown into all of your operating accounts. And so that's what we did. And we kept track of the payroll, kept track of where the money went, all that kind of stuff. And so so that was their technicality. That was the SBA's technicality, is that I used funds for the down payment of the car wash, but there was no rules. There was no rules around. There was rules that you couldn't use it as a down payment. You had to use it to pay payroll, which we did. Sure. But it wasn't clear on, okay, was this specifically PPP funds that were being used to pay payroll, or was this normal operating funds that were being used to pay payroll? Because it was all commingled, which they set it up that way. So anyway, long story short, the guy goes, well, money is fungible. And for those that may not know what that definition is, it means that the dollar that goes in the bank account today versus the dollar that goes in the bank account tomorrow, you don't know which dollar it is and which one you're pulling out. And so that's like, all of a sudden, all my stress alleviated. I'm like, okay, I'm good. Like this is going to get worked out. We had to do some paperwork. And the funniest thing was when my partner and I walked outside, and he leans back and he's kind of like, and you'd have to see this guy. This guy does not direct. You would never know that this guy was worth any money or anything like that, just because he's just a normal person walking on the street. I think he had a hole in his shirt. I'm not sure. And and he goes, well, that was fun. And I looked at him, and Drewbie, we're friends also, so you kind of know my personality a little bit. That was not fun. That was not fun at all. That was like I was like, in my head, I was going to jail for fraud. I was this dream was dead, and it was actually my wife's signature on the SBA documents for the PPP loans for the company. And I'm like, it's not even me going to jail, it's my wife. And like just the yo-yoing and the emotional stress and all of that kind of stuff that happened in that 3 days. And finally, the bank president, after hearing all the different sides and everything like that, he's like, all right, close the loan. This is ridiculous. And yeah. So if that's a sales story, it's a story of sales preservation and perseverance and getting in there and just kind of going through the motions and going through the steps when you don't know the outcome.
Oh man. Okay. Yes. This is why I was like, Scott, don't you dare try to tell me that you don't know what story to tell. Cause like there's a story out there that we know people need to hear. And I think this is such a great reminder that you can do everything right. You can have all of the pieces put together. You can have like literally step by step by step done everything you're supposed to do. And you can still have a huge ass wrench thrown into the middle of it. Outside of your control, people's variables, like there's different aspects to this. And this is why I love the conversation, because there are people right now who are in the middle of a huge life-changing deal, just like you were, that are in that scenario, and they're panicking. And they're like, oh my God, my entire world's going to fall apart. What the heck am I going to do? And I think it goes back to what you mentioned in terms of, all right, let's just figure out step one. Let's go to the bank and have a conversation. And that's the part I think a lot of people skip. They just kind of sit and stir in it, and they're just musing on all these bad things that are going to happen, and they're not just taking that first step. And I know in your journey, because as you mentioned, we're friends beyond the show here, that's not the only time you've been in a scenario where you literally just had to like buck up and take that next step. Is that pretty fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, I can look at several different situations, even one I'm in right now, where we've got, I'm building an app and never built an app before, never gone down the never gone down the pitch deck road of finding investors and pitching this app that's my baby, and that kind of thing. And you're also looking down the line of like funding and realizing, okay, there's a runway here, and that runway is shorter than I thought it was. And so I can, worst case scenario it, which anybody that knows me knows that I can go there really, really fast, really fast. And I think a lot of people can, and a lot of people get kind of paralyzed in that space of the worst case scenario. Instead of just kind of pausing, taking a deep breath. I read something today that said, sing the ABCs in your head before you respond, or something like that. And just to take a moment and say, all right, what's just the next step? Because there's a saying that I use in a kind of a principle that I live by, is what is in your hands today? Because a lot of times we're looking at what's not in our hands, and we can get into that scarcity mind. We can get into that poverty mentality real fast of, well, I don't have this today, and so therefore I can't execute X. I can't do this. And I consult and counsel a lot of business owners and visionaries and founders and all that kind of stuff as well on, okay, what's actually in your hand? Talk to me about what's in your hand. And then once we can get to the what's in our hand, okay, what can we do with what's in your hand? All right, we can do this, this step. And it just makes it just kind of deconstructs it down into small things that you can do today that change your outcome tomorrow, or change your outcome in a year or 2 years. That car wash deal that we did, a year later, I sold it for a multi-million-dollar profit. And so I would have never known in that moment that just showing up at the bank that day, that a year later, literally, it would turn into that. And I look back at that story. It's just crazy. It's just crazy and eventful. And but I learned a lot.
And God works in mysterious ways. So, like as you said, had you not made the point of just showing up and having the faith and just trusting the process, who knows where you would be, man? I know we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. Like there's this whole, like, again, you can go down the black hole of worst case scenarios, but then you can go the other route of, hey man, what if this does work out? And like, this is why I love sharing these kinds of stories, because now the listener has the ability to say, all right, well, shit, man, I might be in that really tough spot right now, but instead of going down the bad route, what if this does turn into a multi-million-dollar exit in 12 months? Like, what if? It's just so interesting how that side of the faith and the belief and the trust in yourself and the trust in the work that you're doing and the people that you have around you, that makes a big aspect of entrepreneurship such an interesting journey. And I know for you, that's kind of been a big part for you. Now that you've had the success and you've kind of grown a bit, you've really made a point of like pouring back into the kingdom. And so I'd be curious on, for you, what drove that, and where do you want to go with it from here?
Let me make sure I understand your question. You're saying that after going through everything and pouring it back in, like, what do I want to do with like consulting and that kind of space, like pouring it into people?
I think because one thing I know about you is that you love sharing that wisdom, right? You recognize that you've been gifted this abundance and of opportunity and knowledge, and you love sharing that back with people. So like, kind of where do you see this going? I know you're building an app. Like, what's the purpose of the app, and how are you taking all of these lessons that you've learned over the years of building a business, exiting a business, working with all of these different entrepreneurs, and like, where do you go from here with all of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love the moment where things seem like you can't see your way out of something, and you talk it through, you process it, or or somebody's processing it with me. I call them clarity sessions, and it's one of those things where I start to see pieces, and I start to see strategy that's kind of over here, over there. They don't see it connected together, but I totally see it connected together. And so then telling them back, okay, you said these three things connect, and here's a couple of actionables on how you can progress. And that light bulb moment, that hope that comes up out of those sessions and those moments of like, okay, I came in here defeated. I came in here like there wasn't a path forward, me sitting at the bank at that meeting. And then we talk it through, we process it, we say a few things, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, I've got clarity, I've got steps forward, I can actually move. And the thing that I recommend to people that I talk with and that I consult is just click it forward. Like you don't have to go 10 clicks ahead every day. Just one click, just keep it moving. So many people get discouraged that something hasn't happened quickly for them, or a whole number of scenarios. But just wake up one day, even if the motivation's not there, okay, just click it forward once. Okay. And then then there's a day that you're like crazy motivated. Okay. Click it forward 3 times. Just keep moving. And that's where I think a lot of people get stuck, or they just get discouraged to the point that they stop moving, is that they're not seeing the results. They're not seeing the outcomes. They're not seeing the fast. We live in a world where immediate gratification is so just, we can, I think Amazon, I can order something at 10 a.m. and it's here by 2, right? So there's this thing. And so sales, business, building anything, it just doesn't happen like that. And so staying consistent, staying in there, finding those little dopamine hits along the way to keep you motivated. And so with the app specifically, it's a productivity tool. And a lot of people, there's productivity tools out there, Asana, ClickUp, Monday.com. None of them actually facilitate teams moving together. And so my app goes from a verbal processor. So, meeting notes, that kind of stuff. You can throw meeting notes in it or use the app for that. And then it's going to understand the context of your team, your organization, and their roles, functions, what they do, their job descriptions, all that kind of stuff. It's going to understand that. And then by the time that you get to your desk, or by the time that I'm saying, hey, Drewbie, I need you to do this, and there was this great idea about this. There's, can you have X done? It's going to know, and it's going to ship it to you, and you're going to have it in your inbox. And it's not your email inbox. It's just it's a task, right? But instead of just a clarity, or instead of just a comment box, right? At Scott, what did you mean by this? And then it gets lost in my email. Then you're chasing me through Slack or text message, or, hey, did you get that? Did you get that question I had? We will facilitate proper communication. So we'll have a clarity button. We'll have an approval button. We'll have a request button, and then we'll have an update button. And that will help facilitate the back and forth communication that it actually takes to get something done. If I need another task, if I need somebody else to do something so that I can finish my task, then I'm going to request it, and then it's going to get linked, and it's going to get it's going to give a founder, a leader of a team, a manager, kind of wherever they're at in the organization, visibility into, this is what's happening. This is what I need to respond to. As a leader, we're moving around so fast. And sometimes we don't know that our team's twiddling their thumbs because they're waiting for us to answer something. And so how many times have we dealt with that? Right. And So basically the app is going to recognize that, hey, Drewbie asked you a question about this and this is not moving. You think it's moving, but it is not moving because you need to provide clarity or you need an approval or whatever. So we've got a beta version launching at the end of the month that I'm super excited about. And yeah, we'll just kind of see where it goes.
That's super cool. And you're right. There's a lot of tools out there, but like anything, tools are only as good as the operators who have them in their hands. And to your point,
True.
right? What's in your hands today? And if the tools that you're using, you're not using adequately, or you're half using because you're not maximizing the fact that at some point human communication is still a part of how we build a business.
Right.
And the accountability to, hey, a business owner, leader, they do have a lot of responsibilities. There are things that they have to be focused on. And at certain points along the way, it can happen where you don't respond timely enough to people who need your approval on specific pieces. And then it's just a cascading effect of, why is this late? Why hasn't this been done? And it's like, well, boss, we were all waiting for you to check the box that said yes. And as stupid as that sounds, the rule is we don't move forward until you check yes. And so like, that's why these processes exist. And so I'm very excited. I know you've been working on this for a while. We've been chatting about it offline. So I'm excited to see it coming to fruition for you. And we could probably sit and be nerds about this for many, many hours, which we have offline in other situations. So I want to respect your time, man. How do we find you, follow you, check out more of the stuff when the app launches? Like, what's the best way for our listeners to check out your stuff, man?
Yeah, probably the best way to connect with me is actually through LinkedIn, Scott McElroy, and I'm in Oklahoma. So if you gotta throw an Oklahoma in there to find the right Scott McElroy, that's fine.
We'll make sure we link it for you.
That's probably the best way. I mean, I've got Facebook and Instagram. Facebook's full of my family, so if you want to see my kids and that kind of thing, that's fine. But LinkedIn is probably the best place to find me.
Awesome. Well, we would definitely put that out there. I know, like I said, man, I'm very excited to see this all come to fruition. It has been a super honor to watch your journey. And if you guys aren't watching, like right now, you're not seeing him on the video. He's like super dapper. He's looking shredded, like he's ready to lift, 500 pounds. Not only has he built a successful business, but he has changed his entire life around. And so I highly encourage you guys to go check out his story, look at his content, and see what can happen when you go all in on truly becoming this version of yourself that you can be proud of, because Scott has set an amazing example of that. So Scott, man, thank you for being here and sharing with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate the invite, and you're love to see the brand Call the Damn Leads, and I always get a few setbacks when I say, hey, my friend owns the Call the Damn Leads brand.
Well, we're here to help the people. And with that said, if you listen to today's show and you got some value out of it, go send it to a friend. Maybe you know somebody who's in business and like they're really going through a hard time right now and they need that little reminder that like they don't suck. Sometimes the universe has to put these in our way, these roadblocks, so that we can truly appreciate what is going to happen when we get on the other side of them. And so send it out there, share it with people, tag me and Scott on social media, let somebody know. And then maybe you've got a crazy story. Maybe you sat in a bank and they tried to deny you from your life's dream of owning this amazing thing that was already going and you had to figure it out in the last minute. I want you to come on the show. I want you to share your story. Head over to callthedamnleads.com/podcast. Send us your details. Check it out. While you're there, grab a hat, t-shirt, keychain, something. Support the movement. We'll see you guys next time. Go Call the Damn Leads.
When the doubt gets loud, but answer that call. Vision ain't real till you grind that speed, so breathing deep. Then call the damn leads. Call the damn leads.